I think good afternoon to you from
Good
your end.
afternoon indeed. Yeah, hi.
Yeah. Meanwhile, other students are joining. I'll start with a brief introduction about the initiative and then about you, and then maybe we can start. So, good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to you all. On behalf of the entire Biopractify team, I'm delighted to welcome you to the 17th session of our speaker series Beyond Research, where curiosity meets conversation. And the series was created with a simple idea in mind to go beyond textbooks, beyond linear career paths, and have a honest conversation about how science, industry, and people actually grow in the real world. And thank you all for taking the time today to join us. And we are excited to have such a diverse audience of students, researchers, and early career professionals with us. And it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, who is particularly special because her like today's session it speaks to something many of us experience but rarely talk about openly, like non-linear career paths, unexpected transitions, and the real value of networking and community. So our speaker for today is Mrs. Sarah Farrow, and Sarah is currently working as a business development manager at Bitesize Bio, a globally recognized biosciences learning and wisdom sharing community. Her career spans across multiple commercial roles within the life science industry, beginning with the hands-on scientific roles in formulation science and scientific training before spending over a decade as a recruitment partner to biotech and pharma industries. And during this time, she worked closely with scientific teams, with business development functions, and key industry stakeholders. Uh, and which what truly sets Sarah apart is her belief that meaningful progress doesn't always come from having the perfect plan, but building genuine connections, strong network, and supportive communities. And today, she'll be sharing about her journey in the session titled My Nonlinear Path into Business Development and Why Networking and Community Building Mattered More Than a Plan. And I'm confident this session will offer the students valuable insights, practical takeaways, and a fresh perspective for anyone navigating their own career journey. With that, I'd warmly welcome you, Miss Sarah, to this session. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the invite to speak. It's lovely to see you all here today. So yeah, if it's okay, Vinny, I've prepared a few slides just to help guide what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
great.
So I'll share those. What I will say is that I'm quite an informal kind of person. So if anyone has any questions while I'm speaking, please don't feel like you need to wait till the end. If you want to just jump in, I'm more than happy to answer any questions as we go. Um, so can everyone see my screen? Does that come up?
Yes, it is visible.
Perfect. So I've just popped on there my contact details as well. So if anyone wants to follow up after the call, very happy to answer any questions. If you don't want to ask them here or you don't get a chance as well, I'm very happy to continue the conversation. You'll see that that's a bit of a theme with me as we go through. Always happy to chat to people. So one of the things I wanted to start on is that I get asked this question a lot when I'm out and about and networking and chatting to people about my career is how did you end up doing this? Um, because my path doesn't seem like it naturally fed into the role that I'm doing now, but I'm going to have a little chat with you about how I sort of got to this position and the sort of the fact it wasn't planned, but it makes sense, I guess. So I started out my career, as I'm sure many of you will. My undergraduate degree was in biotechnology. That was back in 2005. So back then, I spent a lot of time explaining to people what biotechnology was. People didn't seem to know what it was. It wasn't so well known as it is now. And during that time, I had the opportunity to do an internship for 1 year with Procter and Gamble, where I worked as part of the formulation team, developing the formulations for Fairy Active Bursts, which are our dishwasher detergents. Really took a lot out of that year, and I gained a lot of the sort of skills that have really served me throughout the rest of my career. Skills of networking, of getting to know the right people to speak to, which is particularly important within a big bureaucratic organization. Things that you don't think about, like the correct way to speak to other business professionals. So took a lot out of that, but what I did realize quite quickly was it probably wasn't the sort of role that I wanted to spend my career doing. A lot of the tests I was carrying out were very repetitive. I was spending all day, often in a lab on my own. I'm quite a natural communicator. I like building community. So working alone in the lab really didn't suit me. So really good experience, but what I will say is throughout my career, I've learned as much about what I don't like doing and what I'm not good at as what I do like doing and what I am good at. And I think that's important as well. So when I graduated, I actually graduated in the middle of the recession in the UK. So in 2009, there weren't a lot of jobs around. It was quite difficult to find something that really met my criteria. And I didn't really know what my criteria was at that point. I was still working out, I guess, what I wanted to do. And I had the opportunity to join a training company. So this role came about. I'd spoken to a careers advisor at the university, and they'd suggested that there was an internship. It was 12 weeks that was going to be working in a further education college with children aged 14 to 16 who were disengaged from science, who the sort of the more academic pathway wasn't working for them. It seemed like a really great challenge, and I was very fortunate to be offered the role after interviewing for it, or the internship, I should say, sorry, which was initially just for 12 weeks. Again, went in there not really sure what to expect, took a lot out of it, and realized that I really loved communicating science. And this was a really good sort of entryway into understanding how to pitch my communication at different levels of people. So in this role, I worked with primarily 14 to 16-year-olds, but as part of the role, I was also involved in community outreach. So I used to work with very young children. So I would go into primary schools and work with children aged 4 upwards, and their families as well. So I would also work in the community with parents and grandparents sometimes of children who were learning about science. So really good experience. And at the end of the 12 weeks, again, really fortunate to be offered a contract extension. So I was offered a 1 year contract at the end of that. And then that was eventually extended to a permanent position. And one of the things I got involved in while I was working there as well was in organising work experience placements. I had 90 students who I supported to find a 2 week placement where they went out into industry, or some of them went into academic settings or schools, to work in something science or science adjacent. So either scientifically focused work experience placements or something related to science. And what I learned from that was that you can be quite inventive in realizing where the applications of science can be. So I had placements for some of my students in hairdressers where we went and give them a science project that was looking at the dyes that went into hair colorants. We had some of the students were working in food manufacturing and looking at food ingredients, through to we had people working in very academic labs in biotechnology companies. So it was a real range, and that was really my first experience in networking as well. So in order to set up these work experience placements, I really had to build out quite an extensive network in my local area with local businesses that were prepared to take someone on for 2 weeks and kind of look after them almost. So it's not an experienced person, it's someone that needs to learn. And so networking really served me well then. So after I completed 2 years there, the organization I was working for was making some redundancies. So there'd been a change in the funding criteria for the training courses that I delivered, and it was no longer financially viable. So they were making some redundancies. And at that point, what I did was I went and had a chat with a local recruitment consultant. And while I was there, they had a lot of boxes packed up around the office, and they said, "Oh, please excuse the mess when we're moving into a new office." And what I still think to this day is one of the most important phrases that I've learned is, "Oh, why are you doing that?" And the more you ask questions and lead with sort of curiosity, the more opportunities that will present themselves. And so what they said was, we're moving offices, it's bigger, we're expanding. And so my follow-up question to that was, are you recruiting for roles within your team? And actually, what started out as me going to visit a recruitment consultant to learn about the roles that they had that may be back in a lab setting, just try and get some work that was going to bring me some money in. It actually led into an opportunity working as a recruitment consultant. So what I did there, it was a lot of spending time on the phone. So this image actually illustrates it quite well. Um, I spent most of my days either cold calling companies to try and sell them recruitment services, or I would call candidates who were looking for work and interview them for their suitability for those roles. And again, so what I'd learned about networking in the training role really set me up well for this, but this took it to that next level. This was very much about selling. There was, you sort of, as a recruitment consultant, you run your own desk. So it's, or that's what they would call it, running your desk. So it's almost like running your own small business. And so I learned a lot there about sort of profit margins and how to run a business, how to effectively sell a business. I also learned an awful lot about the science industry. So I was recruiting for roles across all areas of science. So I covered everything from quality control, quality assurance, regulatory affairs, research and development, through to clinical affairs. So I got a really good overview of the whole industry and all of the different roles that a scientist might be able to do, which again, I think has been invaluable throughout the rest of my career. Also taught me a lot of good sort of listening skills to sort of pick up where the opportunities are, not for myself at this point, but opportunities for someone else who is seeking a role in industry to really understand what their skills are and how that might apply to a particular organization, how the culture might fit as well. So I did that for, it was actually almost 12 years I worked in recruitment. Um, and again, sort of, you'll notice a bit of a pattern here. I was very happy in that role, but my organisation started making some redundancies. So I wasn't at threat. I was very much safe in my role, but it gave me the incentive to start looking at what else I can do within the industry. Very opportunistically, one of the organizations that I was recruiting for, who was a startup biotechnology company, who were developing cell preservation products. It's a hydrogel based product. They approached me to ask me help them find a sales manager. I went to a networking event about a week later, and I met the CEO of the company at that networking event. I'd already built up quite a good rapport with him over maybe 6 months prior to that, when I'd seen him at various networking events, and sort of got to know him quite well. And he suggested that I apply for that role, which I did. A little bit nervous about it and about the sort of the difficulty in managing them as a customer at the same time as applying for the role myself. But it worked out well. I ended up getting that role and made the transition into business development. Wasn't all that different to working in recruitment, because in recruitment, a lot of the sales activities that I did towards the end of my career were in person. I would go out to conferences, to networking events, get to know the organizations that were recruiting in person and get to know the individuals within those organizations in person. And so it was a really nice transition. And I ended up working with a lot of the people who I'd either got jobs for when I was working in recruitment, or who I had recruited for if they were the managers of those roles. I ended up working with those as customers in this new role. I did that for around 6 months, and I was actually at a conference this time last year, at SLAS, representing that organisation, and I knew that culturally it probably wasn't the right place for me to be, and at that point I met my now boss, so the founder of Bitesize Bio. And we just had a chat, and we ended up chatting. I bumped into him in the airport after the event as well, and we ended up chatting over coffee. And he mentioned that he was going to be looking for a new business developer. And when I got back, I dropped him an email, said I would be interested if he was going to be recruiting for someone. And that's how I ended up here at Bitesize Bio. So I think I appreciate that's a really long way of telling that story, but what I would say, at every point in my career, I've never intended to get the job I've got. An opportunity's presented itself, and I've had a really good conversation with someone, and that's led to my next role. And I think that that's worked really well for me. I know for some people, they like to have a plan, they like to know that things are going well. But for me, I've kind of just worked out this looks like it might be a good fit. And I've given it a go, and it's worked out really well for me. So I thought I'd talk just a little bit about what I actually do now. So what is the role of a business developer? Because I appreciate that not everyone will know this. And we're a very small team where I work. We've got a big footprint, a big reach, in terms of audience, but in terms of staff, there are only 12 of us. So I wear a lot of different hats within the organization. I'm a team of one, so I do all of the business development activities for the whole business. And it all comes down to me, really. And that's looking after basically anything that leads to revenue generation. So that can be going out to conferences. I'm actually at a conference next week. That can be locally, or I travel all over the world. I'm in a global role, and introducing the company to prospective buyers. It's managing that pipeline. So once I've made that initial introduction, it's getting to know that person better until the point where they're ready to make a sale, and then eventually closing that deal. Once I've closed the deal, I've got a customer. It's then managing that account, managing that relationship, making sure that you're in regular contact with them so that when they do look to buy more services, more products, then you're front of mind, and they're ready to work with you more, and sort of really nurturing that relationship. And then a big part of my role is also looking at data, looking at our strategy for growth for the coming year, and really planning out what activities we're going to be involved in order to grow the business, and also reporting on the progress of that. So just in case any of you are thinking about a career in business development, just a few pointers just to bear in mind. Business development typically involves a lot of travel. I've got a young family, and one of the things I had to consider when I was looking for this role and also previous roles was how that would work for my family life. And ultimately, I'm a mother and a wife first, and an employee second. That's the way I view it. So travel has to work around family for me. I know that some local business development managers. So if they have a local territory, they might be on the road every day. Generally, for me, I travel around once a month, once every couple of months maybe, and I might be away for a week at a time, which works really well for my family. It means myself and my husband can manage childcare between us, and when I'm away, I get all of my travel done in a short space of time, and really maximise the time that I've got when I'm away. You have to like working with people. There's no getting around that. If you're not a people person, business development is not for you. So you really need to be invested in building relationships, in networking, in building your community, and really enjoy the conversations that you have. There's a lot of people that I've worked with as customers that I now consider friends. And again, something you can't really get away from as a business developer. A lot of organizations will have performance related targets. I'm very lucky in that I generally set my own targets and my own strategy, but in some companies you don't have that level of autonomy. But there is always a pressure to generate revenue, to generate business, to grow the business. So if you don't like working in a high pressure environment, this role might not be for you. Personally, I really like having targets to work towards. I really like having pressure, and I find I work better in that scenario. Just a few things that I wish I knew when I started out. So I think it's been a theme of this conversation that your path doesn't have to be linear. I didn't start out my career thinking I really want to work in business development. I really want to be a recruiter. I really want to be a trainer. I always thought I was going to be a scientist, and I've pivoted at various positions, as I've told you, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that it's failed or my plans have failed. It just means I've taken a different path to the one that I intended to. And with that in mind, it's okay to change your mind. You don't have to have all the answers. It's important not to compromise on your values, on the important stuff. So there have been times in my career where I've felt this does not fit with my own set of values, my own moral framework. And that's something that you need to be prepared to walk away at times. And I have in the past. Always look for the opportunities. So, as I mentioned, a lot of these positions I haven't planned to get. The opportunities have just arisen through asking the right questions, through leading with curiosity, and really always looking for where the next opportunity will come from. If any of you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll know that I'm very big on personal branding. I would say this has served me very well throughout my career. So this time last year, I decided to leave a job without a job to go to. The biggest asset for me was my network and my personal brand. I put out messages on LinkedIn, posts on LinkedIn, saying that I was looking for work. And I was very lucky that I was very busy for 2 weeks with interviews, with phone calls. My inbox was always full of people who were prepared to help me, to make introductions for me, or indeed offer me a job. And I was only actually out of work for 2 weeks in the end, as a result of really building that network and building that personal brand. And with that in mind, networking is an absolute superpower. You never know who that person that you speak to is going to introduce you to, which door they can open. So even if the person that you're speaking to maybe isn't useful to you right now, it's worth investing in that relationship because you never know when it might come in handy. And it's nice to be nice. So someone might get in touch with you and ask you for some advice. They might ask you to come and join a webinar for them. If you're prepared to do things for other people, you'll find things come around. It's always good to help out your network when you can. And then just I'm going to wrap up after this slide. So any questions, please feel free to jump in. But something that I looked at when I was looking for work was this concept of ikigai, which is a Japanese concept of the way to fulfillment or the way to happiness. And essentially, it involves identifying what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. And the idea is if you can do all of those things, then you will be fulfilled and happy in your job. So for me personally, what I love is building relationships, is networking, is building community. I love science. Science always had to be a part of any job that I was in. And I've been very lucky that that has been the case. And I'm also very competitive. I get all of those things within my current job. What I'm good at is identifying opportunities and pursuing them and closing on them, building relationships, and I'm very good at seeing the bigger picture. So, like I said, noticing that something might not be immediately relevant, that it might not fit into this particular part of the business, but might fit into a different part. I'm really good at just looking at a really broad overview and identifying what the bigger picture is. In this particular role, what I believe that we offer that the world needs is we share knowledge, we share wisdom, we share tools and techniques and all of the things that a scientist needs to be a successful scientist. And that feels really important to me. And also building community. I think that is absolutely what the world needs more of. And I can be paid for this. I'm working a position where we have services that people are prepared to pay for. So, and my boss is therefore prepared to pay me for it. So I would say if any of you is looking for work or looking for a bit of careers advice, this is a good place to start. Think about what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. And you won't go far wrong if you tick all of those boxes. So that's all I have to kind of say at this point. If anyone has any questions or wants to dip in, happy to answer them. But please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or drop me a message afterwards with any questions too.
Oh, really wonderful, Sarah. It was really amazing. And there is one question from students who sent it on the registration form itself. So, how can students start networking meaningfully without feeling transactional?
So something that I think is a good way to start is within your existing network. So I think ultimately that the idea that something has to be transactional, you don't have to get away from that. There are transactions in business, in life. And I don't always feel like you need to have something to offer the other person in return. It can be okay just to ask someone for advice, ask them for help. I think definitely look in your own network and look close to home. If there's someone that you admire who's doing a role that you're interested in, ask them for their advice. People love talking about themselves, as you will have seen from today. And they'll happily answer any questions that you've got, I'm sure, and provide you with some advice or some introductions. So start locally first, I would say. If you don't already have a LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn's a great tool. Get yourself on LinkedIn. And something I always encourage people to do is comment on things. So I've been on LinkedIn a long time. About 15 years I've been on LinkedIn. I only really started commenting in the last year or two on things because I spent a long time thinking I don't really have anything valuable to add here, or, they won't be interested in what I have to say. Turns out that's not true. Absolutely, get in the comments section and start commenting on people's posts, whether you know them or not. If you've got something valuable to say, just add that valuable comment. It can be an opinion. So say they're talking about an area of science that you're really interested in. It might be something that you have an insight into. You can just comment on that post, whether you know that person or not. So that's a good way of starting conversation. And I think just again, don't be afraid to ask for advice, ask for introductions. The worst case scenario, someone says no.
Yeah, definitely. And uh, I also resonate with it because a major part of the way I have built things is networking and connecting to people, whether it is hiring or approaching someone for a collaboration or anything. So anyone else has any questions from the live participants?
Obviously, answered them all already, Vineet.
Okay, so one more question I have, like, do students and they really need business degrees like an MBA or traditional your MIMs and all to transition into this role, or how would you suggest them?
I don't think so, personally. I don't have an MBA. Excuse me. I don't have a business qualification. I don't have a marketing qualification. I don't have any formal sales training. The way that I've learned is by doing it. So, in my role in training, if I go back as far as that, I was ultimately selling work experience placements, I guess. I know it's not selling, but you are asking someone to do something for free, give up their time, give up their energy for free for you. So it is ultimately you're picking up the phone and making a cold sales call, essentially. And the way I got past that was just to do it. The more you do it, the more easy it gets, and the more you learn from it. The same when I started out in recruitment, I had no idea how to sell recruitment services. And I started out by understanding what the service was that we were offering, what the benefits of that were, and really learning from the other people around me, and picking up tools on sort of tools, techniques on the job. I currently run a networking group, and something I found really useful from that is chatting to other people doing the same role as I'm doing in other organizations. And we often share advice and share insights into the latest sort of techniques or the latest software and things like that that are out there to help us. So I would say for me, it's just always having an open mind, and always being able to learn. In terms of really positioning yourself as someone who can sell, I think a lot of scientific organizations will hire scientists to do that role. So it's not unusual for a scientist with no scientific qualifications to do a business development role. Sorry, a scientist with no sales qualifications.
True, true, and it's inspiring to see how you have smoothly done that in your own career.
I would also say I don't have a PhD, and that's something that throughout my career I've always felt makes me a little bit of an imposter. It doesn't. No one cares. No one, if I introduce myself to someone, I speak with credibility. No one says to me, "Can you tell me your credentials before we continue?" They're always happy to have a chat. So I would say even things like a PhD for my role. I know some roles do need a PhD, and particularly if you're going into academia. But for me personally, I don't have a PhD, and it's never held me back.
True, true, can't agree more. Even like for me, it has been the same.
Good,
There is
good, good.
there is one question from Sanjana, and they are asking for if there are any skills you would suggest for people with a pharmaceutical background.
For moving into sales specifically, do we mean, or for just for finding a role in the scientific industry? I guess I can answer both those questions. So I would say useful skills for anyone, whether that be a scientist or a business developer, is knowing how to communicate your science, knowing how to communicate it concisely and effectively, in a way that will both resonate and be understandable to the person that you're communicating it to. So science communications, I would say, is the number one skill that I think all scientists should have. And then networking. I mean, I've obviously chatted about it a lot here, but again, I think from a career development perspective, if you're looking for a next opportunity in any industry, in any organization, the way to do that is through your network. So I would say that's a really useful skill, being able to just have conversations with people, to ask questions, and to lead with curiosity.
Uh, I hope, Sanjana, that answers your question. So, as we come near the end of the session, I would really like to thank you, Sarah, once again for such an insightful and engaging session. And it was really great to see your journey and experiences, how they have given us a very, honest perspective on non-linear careers, business development, and the power of networking itself and community building. And I'm sure the audience has taken away valuable lessons, and even I have taken a lot of valuable lessons from your session today, and that will help us navigate our own paths with more confidence. And on behalf of the entire Biopractify team and the American Chemical Society's ACS student chapter, I'd like to extend our sincere gratitude to you for sharing your time, knowledge, and experiences with us today. And it is because of speakers and people like you who are ready to take a session at at a short notice and to give back to the community. Such kind of initiatives are thriving, and people are getting these kind of opportunities. So thank you once again, and thank you to all the participants as well for joining us. We hope to see you in the upcoming sessions as well. And yeah, have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Vineet, for the invitation.